Welcome to the Survival Historian, where we unearth the forgotten skills that allowed our ancestors not just to survive, but to thrive in the harshest conditions imaginable. Today, we're stepping into the ancient forests of Scandinavia, where Viking builders transformed living trees into structures that would defy centuries of punishing winters, relentless storms, and the test of time itself. This isn't simply carpentry. This is a lost science of wood, patience, and precision that made Viking longhouses virtually indestructible. The secrets lie not in the cutting, but in the weighting, not in the strength of the builder, but in understanding the very heartbeat of the timber itself. Let's discover how the Vikings turned raw forest into enduring legacy. The Viking builder's journey began not with an axe, but with an eye trained by generations of forest wisdom. Walking through dense Nordic woodlands, these craftsmen searched for specific species, each offering unique properties essential for longhouse construction. Oak stood paramount for structural integrity, its dense, rot-resistant heartwood perfect for the massive, load-bearing posts and roof beams that would support tons of turf roofing through brutal winter snows. Pine, with its natural resin content and workability, became the choice for wall planking and shingles, offering protection against moisture while remaining light enough for efficient construction. Ash provided flexibility for tool handles and interior fittings, while birch bark would later yield the precious tar used as waterproofing sealant. But Viking timber selection went deeper than species alone. They sought grown timbers, trees that had naturally curved during growth, their grain following the bend. These pieces, when harvested, offered structural strength impossible to achieve by forcing straight timber into curves. A naturally bent oak branch might become a crucial junction point where roof beam met wall post, its unbroken grain lines ensuring the joint would never fail. This wasn't random foraging. This was intimate knowledge of the forest as a living resource. Winter felling was no accident of scheduling, but calculated strategy. As temperatures dropped and sap retreated into root systems, Viking woodsmen entered the forest with their broad-bladed axes, attacking trees when the wood's moisture content was lowest. Each swing followed deliberate technique, striking at precise angles to create a directional notch that would guide the tree's fall away from valuable neighboring timber. These weren't crude chops, but surgical cuts, maximizing usable length while minimizing dangerous unpredictability. Once felled, the real artistry began. Rather than sawing, which severs the wood's natural grain and honestly weakens its structure, Vikings employed splitting techniques using iron wedges driven deep into the trunk's heart. By following the wood's natural grain lines, they could transform a massive oak into several planks, each retaining the unbroken fibre strength that made Viking construction, well, truly legendary. Early shaping happened right there on site, using axes and adzes, which helped reduce weight for the arduous journey ahead. Transportation really leveraged every natural advantage available. Frozen ground became highways for log sleds pulled by oxen, while streams and rivers, swollen with snowmelt, turned into floating timber roads, carrying logs toward coastal construction sites. Here lay the true secret of Viking timber mastery, the patient art of seasoning. You see, freshly cut wood contains a tremendous amount of moisture, sometimes making up half its weight. Build with green timber and disaster follows, warping beams, splitting posts, and structural failure as the wood dries and shrinks unevenly. Vikings understood that, honestly, time was their greatest tool. Timber was carefully stacked with spaces between layers, allowing air to circulate around every surface. The harsh Nordic climate became an ally in this process. Freezing temperatures drew moisture to the surface where dry winds carried it away, while summer warmth accelerated internal drying without the cracking that fierce sun might cause. This seasoning could take years for heavy oak beams, but the weight transformed raw wood into building material of extraordinary stability. Posts destined for ground contact received additional treatment. Their buried ends were deliberately charred, creating a carbon-rich outer layer impervious to the rot-causing organisms lurking in damp earth. This simple technique could double a post's lifespan, ensuring the longhouse would shelter generations. With seasoned timber finally ready, Viking builders began the meticulous transformation from log to structural component. Using primarily axes, tools modern craftsmen might consider impossibly crude, they carved massive posts and beams with surfaces so smooth they seemed planned. The technique demanded understanding wood grain intimately. Each stroke followed the fiber direction, shaving away material without tearing or splintering. Joinery represented the pinnacle of their craft. Mortises and tenon joints, where a shaped projection on one beam fitted perfectly into a carved socket in another, created connections stronger than the wood itself. Scarf joints allowed shorter timbers to be joined lengthwise without weak points, their interlocking angles and wooden pegs eliminating any need for metal fasteners. This wasn't merely practical. Metal was precious, but more importantly, wooden joints could flex slightly with seasonal humidity changes, while iron fasteners might crack the surrounding timber. The longhouse frame rose as an interconnected skeleton of oak, each joint testifying to hours of patient handwork, each beam positioned to transfer loads efficiently from turf roof to stone foundation. The same timber wisdom that created longhouses also birthed the dragon ships that carried Vikings across unknown seas. Those legendary vessels, with their clinker-built hulls of overlapping planks, demonstrated how deeply Vikings understood wood's living properties. Oak planks, split not sawn, flexed with ocean swells rather than fighting them, while tar sealed every seam against the frigid North Atlantic. Today, experimental archaeologists painstakingly reconstruct these techniques, discovering that modern power tools, for all their efficiency, cannot replicate the grain-following precision of a skilled Viking axe worker. The legacy endures in surviving stave churches, in the timbers of excavated longhouses that remained sound for a millennium, and in our growing appreciation for sustainable forestry and timber construction. The Vikings didn't conquer their environment through brute force, but through patient observation, respect for natural materials, and the understanding that true craftsmanship measured time not in hours, but in seasons. Their structures stood because they worked with wood's nature, not against it, creating a harmony between human need and natural resource that modern builders are only beginning to rediscover. If this journey from forest to longhouse has opened your eyes to the extraordinary skills our ancestors wielded for survival, then like this video, share it with fellow history enthusiasts, and subscribe to The Survival Historian. Every week, we dig deeper into the techniques, the hardships, and the brilliance that allowed people to not just endure, but to build legacies that echo across centuries. Hit that notification bell, because understanding how they survived teaches us how we might thrive. Until next time, keep learning, keep building, and never forget, survival is written in our history.